MultiVersus just received its biggest update in the history of the game, which was coming out of beta and into a fully launched and released game. With this is the release of Season 1, which comes a new battle pass, a bunch of new content, some new game modes coming soon, characters coming soon. All of that is super cool, and I've actually posted a video already about all those things, so if you want to check it out, it'll be up here, and it'll also be on the end screen after you watch this video, so you can go check it out there. But this video is going to be talking about the patch notes, because there was a huge balance change list that just goes on, and with this, I think that the meta will do an entire shift to completely new characters, and I'm super excited for it. So I'm going to be giving my meta predictions in this video. With that meta prediction, you can decide who to main for this upcoming update. Personally, I think a lot of people should be switching their mains with this update, but we'll get into that. First things first, the new free character rotation is Arya, Batman, LeBron, and Steven. I think there will be a massive influx of new Arya players, especially with her balance changes that we'll get into. New LeBron players are definitely incoming because he's an iconic character, but I don't think a lot of those people will stick around and commit to LeBron because he is a harder and slower character to play. I don't think Steven's really going to see an increase in play because Steven is Steven. It doesn't really need much explanation. He's just not a great character, and he's a pretty complex character, which turns most people off of playing a new character. As for Batman, I'll get into him later because he's super complicated. This is pretty big. The ice debuff, the movement speed slow at 1 stack has been reduced from 20% to 15%. This doesn't actually impact the characters that have freezing abilities because people like Superman and Velma and those characters that actually freeze them won't ever really have you at just 1 stack. They'll usually get at least a few on you before you get out of the ability. This is more aimed towards the perk that makes projectiles apply 1 stack of freeze every time you hit them with a projectile, and the insane Jake and Velma play where the Jake could use that ability and Velma could use her speech bubble, and in combination it would make her use unlimited speech bubbles. You've all seen it on Twitter. That is fixed. Let's talk about the character changes because these are insane. Arya is receiving some buffs, more so just fixes than buffs, but for a little bit of background knowledge, her air upward special as well as her dagger side special were both bugged. They're supposed to, after you hit them and connect that first ability attack, it does a little dash to where they are, and then you can easily follow it up with a combo. However, both of those abilities, when you would do the dash, about 30-40% of the time, it would completely put you in a different spot to where you couldn't follow up with a combo. This wasn't intended. It is supposed to always put you into a position to do a follow-up combo. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I have actually already tried these out in that video I was talking about earlier where I reviewed Season 1. So Tony, who is a co-founder of the game and does a lot of the balance changes, he's super public about the balance changes, the works in progress, stuff like that. So if you don't already follow him, go follow him. He tweets constantly. He has said that the Arya up special is in progress and should be a few hours before it goes live. Sorry, we know the issues that happen. We will put safeguards in place so this doesn't happen in the future. They also have fixed her air up attack, which is just her normal light attack. There used to be a kind of problem with it with inconsistencies where you would hit them with the first one and it would throw them out of range to where you couldn't connect the second. Along with that, all of these are basically just fixes. She was being slowed down after hitting the first hit on a side combo, which is now fixed. She has earlier branching on hit, which is fixed for her neutral air attack. And for her ground down attack, she has slightly earlier dodge branching to make that feel a little bit more smooth. And this is just a bug fix where when she would use her opponent's neutral ability, when she had their face, it wouldn't really properly capture the hitboxes. Overall, the combination of making Arya much more consistent and a little bit easier to play, as well as her being a free character in the character pool, I think will cause a huge influx of Arya players. Good Aryas, rejoice because it is finally time to start absolutely destroying people with this character. Moving on to Batman, and Batman was very broken. Every single pro has agreed for the 1v1s. For clarification, if you mainly play 2v2s, you may be disagreeing with me. He's not broken in 2v2s, but in the 1v1s at high level, he was extremely oppressive because of his battering. So they have nerfed his battering, where the pickup will now return 9.45 seconds of its cooldown, down from 11.55, which is pretty big. Of course, it'll be run with CoffeeZilla, which reduces the cooldown, so it's too crazy, but it does definitely help to make him just feel a little bit less oppressive. They've also added whiff recovery, which if you don't know what that is, basically if you miss an attack, the amount of time that you're stuck there in place and can't perform another attack. So for example, on someone like Arya, if you miss an attack, you're stuck there for much longer than on someone like Finn, where if you miss an attack, you can immediately just turn around and attack again. That's because of the amount of whiff recovery that character has after the attacks. Batman now has added whiff recovery on his ground side attack, which I think will definitely help to make him feel a little bit slower like a bruiser should. There should be no reason that a bruiser character is faster than 2 of the assassin characters. 3 frames isn't a huge deal, but it should help in the higher levels. As well as that, there's a bug fix where his grapple would end up getting him killed and grapple him way too far. I don't think these changes will impact too much with Batman. A lot of people seem to think that this will be a really big nerf because they see these minus signs and think, oh my god, they're nerfing Batman. They're good changes, but I think they need to be more drastic to actually knock him out of like S tier. Moving on to Bugs Bunny, this statement is very true, except let's change the word a bit to like way too. Bugs excels in every single range against every single character on every single map. He was all around dominant. He was definitely the best character in the game. All of the pros think he's the best character in the game. All of the casuals think he's the best character in the game. The only people that don't think Bugs was OP is Bugs mains. But no matter what, nobody's going to say that their main is OP most of the time. They fixed the bug where you could spawn 2 rockets, which was needed. They fixed the exploit where he could spawn multiple safes, which was needed. The safe HP is reduced from 16 to 14, which the majority of the time you won't end up destroying the safe because it takes multiple hits, so they'll just throw it at you before you destroy it. But I mean, I guess it's a good quality of life change. They added 4 frames of whiff recovery to his air up attack, so if he misses his up smash, he won't be able to just immediately up smash you again. Again, this isn't a huge difference, but it will definitely help because Bug's up smash is one of the best up smashes in the entire game. And everybody has had this happen to them where they get hit up by a Bugs main and then they just get juggled in the air like a ping pong ball for the next 30 minutes. They gave him increased whiff recovery of 5 frames on his air side attack and increased whiff recovery of 5 frames on his air neutral attack. Both of these are very good changes. Again, 5 frames isn't insane, but all of these combined should help to make Bugs feel less like an instant character where he just does all his attacks so quickly, and should help to just slow down the pacing of his gameplay a little bit and make it feel like you actually have to think before you use abilities. Now, this first pie change where the lifetime of the pie is set to 8 seconds and then it despawns, I don't think that even matters. I've never been hit by a pie that's traveled for more than 8 seconds. However, this change is extremely good. This is probably the biggest nerf to Bugs, that his pie doesn't apply as slow anymore, because he could throw multiple pies at you in a row, and if any of them hit you, they would make you extremely slow, and it was so hard to play against a Bugs when you were slow and they're lightning quick. So all of this in combination, where now you won't be slowed down at any point playing against a Bugs, and they will be slowed down slightly, it'll just help to kind of even out the field and make it feel less like an unwinnable fight. Finn, I know everybody wanted the Finn nerfs, and wow, there's a lot. Finn spawns with less gold, good change. This will help to make it feel less like he can just instantly buy the speed boost, so he actually has to land an extra attack to buy that. This is more of a bug fix than a buff. They added additional whiff recovery, but they didn't specify how much, which is a little bit weird since they specified how much for all the other characters so far. They reduced the strength of the vacuum effect on the backpack. This is big. If you guys don't know what a vacuum effect is, basically it makes it kind of suck you in if you're close to the ability when he uses it. So at times he would use his backpack and you would kind of see yourself like suck towards the center, and then you would take full damage from it when really you should have been able to get out of the backpack or dodge through it. So they have changed the vacuuming and now it should be less. These are both more of just like quality of life changes than actual nerfs. The added whiff recovery is nice because if you miss the backpack, you won't be able to instantly attack again, but they didn't specify how much whiff recovery, so it could be like 2 frames or something that doesn't matter that much. They also just changed the hitboxes a little bit. They stopped him hitting people behind him. Again, is more of a quality of life change than a nerf because this never should have been a thing, like it wasn't intentional. The distance that Finn covers with his attack now scales with how charged the attack is on his ground down attack, which is a very good change. They added whiff recovery for the first hit of his side attack, which is such a good change. If this is a reasonable amount of time and not like 2 frames, because it'll make it to where he can't just spam his light attack at you for the next 30 minutes, and he actually has to like recover between light attacks. And then this is literally a bug fix, not really a buff. All around, this should make Finn feel less oppressive. It's more of just making him feel less quick than less oppressive, but the backpack change is very good if the vacuuming has been reduced significantly. They didn't specify like any values here, which I don't really think is intentional. Maybe they just forgot. Garnet got a couple buffs, but we're not even gonna really talk about her because nobody cares. Sorry to the Garnet mains. It's just, I can't cover all these patch notes because there's so many, so I'm just going to cover like the super popular meta characters. Harley has gotten a bug fix. It's more of a quality of life change. Basically, this changes nothing except the visual effects of the explosion on the plushie bomb. So when it blows up, the visual of the blow up will be smaller to match the actual hitbox of the blow up, and her weight has been increased. This is nice. Weight basically means how easily you get hit off the screen and how much knockback you take. For example, Arya is the lightest character in the game, so on Arya, you may find yourself getting launched across the map at lower percentages and getting KO'd even at lower percentages. Harley was the second lightest character in the game, and now her weight has been increased from 42 to 44. Won't change too much, but should help certain attacks to stop KOing her when she's at a lower percent, and maybe it takes like an extra hit in the combo to achieve that KO. Iron Giant has gotten a ton of nerfs. I don't really know how to feel about this. I don't think Iron Giant was super OP. He was really dominant at high levels, but he was really trash in like high level ranked, like top 5k to 1k ranked. He was super dominant in like really high level play, like top 100, but was pretty garbage in like top 1k to 5k, and then below top 5k was really dominant. So it was a weird situation there, but overall these nerfs I think are healthy for the game. I'm not going to go through all of these. Basically, they nerfed like everything about him. Like there isn't one specific thing that they nerfed. Everything has gotten nerfed. LeBron is interesting because he's another free character during this new week of characters, and I'm excited to see more LeBrons. LeBron's dunk doesn't spawn a shockwave anymore. The alley-oop version spawns a shockwave, but if you just have the ball by yourself, you don't pass it, you don't knock it off of them or anything, you just do a dunk, it won't do a shockwave. I think this is a good change because the shockwave was a little bit stupid, but overall it's not that serious. A general bug fix. This is pretty big. There was a pretty big issue in the game where if you got somebody against a wall, you could just spam pass the ball over and over and over, and they would just continuously be knocked back and they could never get out of that combo. So they adjusted that to prevent the ball spam. This is a general quality of life change. This is also a general quality of life change. They removed the shared attack decay from the side attack and down attack. It shouldn't have been shared in the first place. So again, that kind of feels like a quality of life change to me, like more of a oopsie, that was a mess up, this is fixed now. His ground side attack 3-hit combos more consistently, which is very nice because his combos are kind of weak by themselves. Like you have to string together multiple attacks. Most of the characters in the game, you can just string together light attacks or string together heavy attacks and they work with themselves very well. And now LeBron will more consistently match those other characters' strengths with the light attacks. The neutral attack, basically all of these are also just quality of life changes. I think this will make LeBron easier to play and simpler to play, which overall, in combination with him being a free character in the character pool, will cause a lot more LeBrons to be seen. However, I don't think people will stick with LeBron at all, really. He's more of a slow and patient character, sort of like Arya, but they're very different. LeBron, you have to have knowledge of how to play with the ball and without, because essentially they're two different characters when you have the ball and don't. Think of it like Samus and Zero Suit Samus from Super Smash Bros. If you played that, or like Diva and Baby Diva from Overwatch. Like you have to play both sides of him extremely differently, which in my opinion makes LeBron a harder character to play. Rain Dog receiving some mixed updates here. His hitbox size is increased on his air up attack, which means it'll be easier to land those up attacks. I don't know how I feel about that because I already think his up attacks are pretty easy to land. They removed the hit pause on allies that threw Rain Dog when Rain Dog connects in ball form. That doesn't impact that much because how often are Rain Dogs actually turning into a ball for their teammate to throw? But it's just a general change. They increased the cooldown from 13 to 14 seconds on his neutral special. Again, not a huge deal. Overall, I don't think this will change anything about Rain Dog really. Like he'll still be played the exact same, but I guess this will kind of set him up for future updates or maybe to fit into the balance of the game a little bit better in general. Shaggy, this change is beautiful. His side special felt a little too unpunishable, so we've added a bit of whiff recovery. Awesome. They added 4 additional frames of whiff recovery, which should help to make Shaggy feel less super fast. The recovery is increased by 2 frames on his Rage Air side special. It more consistently matches the Rage Ground side special because the air one was quicker for some reason. And there was a bug fix where he could perform 2, similar to how bugs could like throw 2 rockets. This is kind of big, the Rage Ground down special. This is one where when he's in his rage mode, he slams the ground like does a little Hulk smash and then it sends out that shockwave on the ground. The shockwave will now launch the fighters into a final hit that applies the weakened debuff. That's pretty big, and there's going to be a lot more KOs starting with this move. I really don't like that. I like that they nerfed these 2 abilities, but they should have just left him nerfed and not buffed anything because Shaggy was too oppressive, but we'll see how it performs. Superman has added whiff recovery on 3 of his abilities, which should help Superman to feel less like an assassin character. Should never have been happening. Superman was one of the fastest characters in the game when he spammed his dodge and spammed his attacks. That's just a general problem in the game personally. I've been seeing a lot of roles not performing how the role should be performing. Like tanks will be super fast or assassins will be slow and clunky. So a lot of the quality of life changes in this update are more just to make the roles perform more like the roles should be, which I'm very excited for. There should be very definitive differences in the roles and the way you have to play the roles. For example, Finn and Arya should both play very similar because they're assassins, but Finn and Batman should not play similar because they're different roles. However, Finn and Batman both play very similar at the moment because they both are very quick, very close range fighting oriented, have very quick recovery, and they both have things that they throw to start that initial combo. Now Taz, it seems to me that they're focusing a lot of attention on Taz because he was OP and they nerfed his tornado and now he's terrible. They reduced the chicken duration from 10 seconds to 8 and increased the size of the chicken. So this is more of a high risk, high reward type thing where when they turn into a chicken, you have less time to punish them, but it's easier to punish them. Taz's spit projectiles have adjusted projectile movement, which are more forward and less of a lob. Basically, this just means that when you spit the apple at them, it'll go like more straight instead of like looping and arcing. He gets another core back if he eats a projectile that can't be spit back out. When he eats a projectile, it's actually easier for him to eat the projectile now because the size of the hit collision is bigger. It's also easier to eat them because it's a few frames earlier. So overall, you're going to be gobbling those projectiles a lot quicker. Every time Taz chooses an enemy, he does a stack of weakened. His air and ground up special, the damage has been reduced from 10 to 9, and the base knockback has been reduced from 1500 to 1350. The air/ground side special has been changed, and now it's a cooldown move with a 7-second cooldown. This is pretty extreme because before there was no cooldown on it. And while the cooldown is active, which means you don't have the ability, the side special is just a weaker version of the tornado. I like this aggressive approach to kind of rework the ability entirely instead of just keeping on buffing and nerfing it and changing it from OP to garbage. The full power tornado has been buffed to have a 1.5 second duration, and it receives an additional 1 second duration if you go through an ally. The ground up attack is a 2-hit attack, which will help combo into the sandwich clap. That's about all for Taz. Overall, I'm super happy with these changes. I think Taz will fit into the game a lot better now and actually have a place on a tier list besides just taking up the bottom spot. Tom and Jerry has some big changes too. The dynamite now applies projectile perk effects, which is pretty big because before the dynamite would just explode and that's it. Now, if you put on perks for projectile freeze or projectile fire or more projectile knockback, whatever it may be, that will affect the dynamite. And then just some bug fixes. So overall, now the only thing different with Tom and Jerry is that the dynamite has changed. They have said that they're trying to fix Tom and Jerry, but it's really hard because at high levels, he's dominant, and at low levels, he's terrible. So there's not really a good way to just buff or nerf him because it will just affect that one side of the ladder well and affect the other side of the ladder poorly. So Tom and Jerry is hard to balance, and they're still working on it. Last one I'm going to talk about is Velma, which has basically just received a ton of nerfs. This is another situation like Iron Giant where basically every part and every aspect of her kit has been nerfed. So she should feel way weaker, which I think personally is a good thing because Velma was one of the dominant characters in the game. That was a long one. I'm overall super happy with these changes. I think it's cool to see them implementing so many changes. It actually is apparent to me that they've been paying attention to the community feedback and watching videos and seeing how the game is working, seeing the dominant characters, looking at the stats, and they've made so many changes to completely shift the game, and I'm super happy about that. It shows that the devs care and that they're paying attention and they're not just throwing the game out there and leaving it and having this attitude of like, oh, the devs know best, we don't care what the people want. So overall, super excited for this update. Let me know what you guys think of Season 1 in the comments. Let me know what you think of the patch notes, the balance changes, and if you want to see me trying out Season 1 and actually playing some of it, testing some of these balance changes, it'll be here in about 2 seconds on the screen. Like and subscribe if you're new, if you want more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.